Hello citizens and welcome back. In today's video, I would like to take a look at starter ships, but I want to do it a little bit differently. So a lot of you are asking me which one is my favorite starter ship and how would I compare different starter ships. So today I am joined by my cat and we're going to make a tier list of starter ships in Star Citizen. So without further ado, let's get to it. So I think first we need to think about what is a starter ship. And for me, that is any ship you can buy a game package with a couple exceptions. For this specific list, to make it fair, because you can actually, if you look at the store, you can actually buy the Freelancer and the Cuddy and the Connie, which will obviously have a lot of advantages over, let's say, a Cutter or an Aurora. So my rules for this one are only single-seater ships that you can buy a game package with, but I am making two exceptions. So the starter ships that are single seat and you can buy a game package with are the Aurora, the Mustang, Pisces, 100i, Cutter, the Intrepid, the CULN, Avenger Titan, Arrow, yes, you can buy an Arrow as a starter pack, and the Nomad. But I am making two further exceptions, because that would be a very short list. I am adding the 300i, because it used to be sold as a starter pack before it was replaced by the 100i, if I recall correctly. And I am adding the Reliant as well, because occasionally CIG will sell a starter pack with it. Specifically, I think they sell it for the Cormor event, and they also sell it for Foundation Festival, if I recall correctly. So I'm including those two. Also, you might have noticed that I'm including a lot of ships that have variants. So the Reliant, the 300i, the 100i, Aurora, Mustang, a lot of these have variants. So I'm going to talk about the variants as well, because it is going to affect my rankings, because technically, while you can only buy a starter pack with the base variant, you can, in theory, CCU to one of the other variants if you would like to. So yeah, let's get started. So these are in no particular order besides how they are ordered on the store, roughly. So let's start with the Aurora. So the Aurora actually comes with 5 variants, and you can actually buy all of them. But obviously the starter pack one is the MR, the Mark, which is a light fighter, surprisingly. But it actually comes with a lot of interesting stuff. You have 3 SCU of cargo, which is kind of useless right now because you can't load it because it requires a special pod and you can't put boxes in it. But you do have internal storage space or internal space on the ship next to the bed where you can put a delivery box if you would like to. But more interestingly, it actually has quite a lot of weapon hardpoints. So it has up to 4 size 1 weapons, and I'm including hardpoints, not what is actually mounted, because then this would get very complicated very quickly. And it also includes a size 2 missile launcher, which, if I recall correctly, stock comes with 2 size 1 missiles, but you could technically swap it for 1 size 2 missile because it is a swappable missile rack, which is very nice. And then you have the variants, which for the most part retain the same features except the final two, which is the Legionnaire and the Clipper, the LN and the CL. The LN being a slightly more dedicated light fighter. It has a size 4 missile rack instead of a size 2 missile rack, so you get a lot more missiles on it, which is nice. It also technically comes with more armor and better engines. But I'm not sure how that actually appears in-game. And the CL is a cargo ship, which instead of 3 SCU has 6 SCU, which I suppose is useful if you want to do some cargo running with it. So where would I put the Aurora? Now, keep in mind that the Aurora was actually my starter, so I am very slightly biased on this one. But I'm going to put the Aurora right there in B tier because it actually supports most entry-level gameplay. Because when you think about it, most players, when they buy the game, they're going to choose the Mustang or the Aurora. And the questions I'm going to ask every time is going to be how many entry-level gameplay loops I can do with this ship. And with the Aurora, it actually is a pretty decent fighter. I've seen people go up to MRT bounties with it with very little issues. You can put delivery boxes in it with a little bit of struggle. You can't do hauling, but I imagine they will fix that eventually. And you have a bed if you would like to log out, which I think is pretty nice. And it technically has a better weapons loadout or weapons capabilities than the Mustang because it has more hardpoints and it has missiles. So that's where I'm putting the Aurora. And then if you want to step up to any of the more interesting variants, that's also an option. So now moving on to the Mustang. The Mustang actually comes with 4 variants that you can buy. Technically, it has 5 variants, but the Omega variant is hull limited as a promotion with AMD, so you only get to buy the 4. The base one that you can buy as a starter pack is the Alpha variant, which strangely is designated as a cargo role. Which is interesting, but it does have 4 SE of cargo in a box that kind of drops out of the rear. You can put delivery boxes in it, which is a new addition. I think it was 320 when they fixed that. But it does not have any kind of an interior, so you don't get a bed or any kind of amenities. And you only get 2 size 2 guns in the nose turret, which depending on what you like, might be better than the Aurora, might not be better than the Aurora. But technically it has the same amount of capability as the Aurora, though the Aurora gets bonus points for having a bed if you would like to bed log, which the Mustang Alpha doesn't have. But if you look at the variants, you actually start seeing some very interesting stuff. So you have the Beta variant, which is a Pathfinder, which trades all of its storage for a full living area. It is actually very nice. It is the first consolidated Outland interior, and you see a lot of the design language in the Nomad, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So you get a bed, you get a kitchen, there's a little working area, there is a bathroom, but you don't have any storage and you retain the same 2x size 2 nose turret. And obviously with the Alpha, Beta, and Gamma variant, you don't get any missiles. The Gamma variant is interesting because it's a racing variant and it doesn't have any interior and any storage, but it has better engines, better maneuverability, but it has smaller guns. So it only goes to 2 S1s. And obviously this weapon and hardpoint sizes are at the time of recording. This might change because we recently had the change where a lot of ships got rebalanced and got upgunned or downgunned. And then we finally have the Delta variant, which is the light fighter. And it is actually a very, very good fighter. Again, no cargo space, no crew area, but you get 2 size 3 guns on the turret, you get 2 size 2 guns on the wings, and 2 more size 2 guns on the wings as well, and you get no missiles. But technically, I believe one of those size 2s on the wings is stock a rocket pod, so you technically have missile capability, you just have dumbfire rockets. How useful is that? Not sure, but I'm sure someone out there is going to be able to find a use for it. But if you don't want the missile pods or the rocket pods, you can put a different size 2 on it, which is actually pretty neat. So you get 6 guns. Then again, your capacitor might be limited on this, so you might want to use ballistics on one of those. But again, lots of room to customize. And now we get to the ranking. And this is difficult. I'm going to put the Mustang in B tier. But even though I am an Aurora owner, I'm gonna say that the Mustang would kind of go to like a B.1. It is slightly better, especially now it is a little more comfortable to put boxes in it, but we will see if there are any further developments with it. Maybe Aurora, if it gets proper cargo, will actually be better than the Mustang. But yeah, if you like combat gameplay, Mustang Delta is probably the cheapest option to get into a solid light fighter, if you're not looking at other options, that is. Moving on to the 100 series from Origin. Again, we get a couple variants. We get the 100i, the 121A, and the 135C. There are small differences here. So the 100i is the base touring variant. You get 2 SC of cargo space and a bed in the crew area, and that's pretty much it. However, you do get 2 size 3 hardpoints for guns, and you get 1 size 2 missile launcher. One caveat with the 100i missile launchers is that these are not swappable. So on the Aurora and other ships, you will see a missile rack component, but on the 100i, or generally 100 series, and also the 300 series, I believe, it is a inbuilt system, so you can't swap it out for something else. So you are limited to that 1 size 2 launcher, but it gets more missiles, if I recall correctly. Moving on to the 125A, it's a light fighter. Again, you get 2 SC of cargo and a bed and 2 size 3 guns. The only difference there is that it's faster, and I believe it has more armor on it. But again, not really a light fighter you would probably go for. And finally, the 135C, which is my favorite variant of 3. You get 6 SC of cargo, which is actually really good for a ship that size. Though that cargo area is not very well accessible, because it kind of drops out of the back. Again, you get a bed, 2 size 3 weapon hardpoints, and 1 size 2 rocket launcher or missile launcher. So where would we put the 100i? I'm going to upset all the Origin lovers because I'm going to put it in the C tier. Now, the reason for this is that in my mind, it falls a little bit short of the Aurora and the Mustang. You don't really get the sort of luxury implementation that you would see with Origin. You can really tell that it's kind of the most basic, cheapest Origin ship on the market. The interior, there is no flare to it, if I recall correctly. There is no lockers, no any kind of a armor rack or weapon rack. And, well, the variants are not really that different. So, really the only one where you get a significant upgrade is the 135C, and that's with the cargo space. So if you want it to be an Origin hauler or an Origin using delivery guy, that's probably what you would go for. But that's really it. However, I will admit that it looks really nice on the exterior. I like Origin design language. I just feel like as a starter ship, the 100i falls a little bit short of the starters you can get with the basic game package, the Aurora and the Mustang. And now moving on to the Pisces. So the Pisces is interesting. It recently received its 3rd variant. Even though 2 of the variants are very similar, there are some differences, and it's a very interesting ship. It is originally designated as the sort of snub craft for the Carrack, because it fits in the Carrack landing bay. But you can buy it separately, and it is actually pretty good on its own as well. So we have 3 variants. We have the base C8, which is a Pathfinder. It comes with 4 SCU of cargo space, which is very well accessible because the rear ramp on the Pisces is pretty much exactly the size of 1 SCU with some room. The bonus feature is that it has 2 jump seats. So along with the pilot, you can take 2 further people and they have a jump seat, so they're not going to get hurt if you maneuver. Though the C8 variant is very light on guns, it only comes with 2 size 1s for weapons and 2 size 1 missile hardpoints, which is pretty weak, but then again, it's not a fighter, it's a Pathfinder. Then we move on to the C8R variant, which is the new one. It is the Rescue Medical Pisces, which essentially trades the entire cargo space. So it has 0 SC of cargo, but it has a full medical bay with a tier 3 medical bed and a jump seat for the medic. And it comes with the same weapons as the C8 variant. And then we finally move to the C8X, which is the actual starter pack variant of the Pisces, which is again a Pathfinder. It comes with the same 4 SCU of cargo and 2 jump seats, but it is slightly upgunned. It has 4 size 1 hardpoints instead of 2, which is a little bit of extra firepower, though I would not use it as a fighter because it still has smaller weapons than other fighters out there. But if you really want to, you could probably do some of the basic bounty missions with it, which is pretty nice. but I imagine most people are going to be using the rescue variant for bunker missions, which is also a very good option. So where am I going to put the Pisces? So this is a tough choice because I had a Pisces for the longest time and I eventually ended up upgrading it to something else. So I'm going to put the Pisces in B tier along with the Mustang and the Aurora because I think it contends with them very well. It definitely supports all of the base gameplay, plus it will actually support hauling, even though it doesn't actually have enough cargo space to support the entry-level hauling missions, which are usually 7 to 8 SCU of cargo. So you might have to do 2 runs if you want to do hauling with it, which is okay. But you can do some entry-level bounties, you can do some bunkers with it, you can do deliveries, a lot of the basic gameplay. So next, let's take a look at the Drake Cutter. It comes in 3 variants, the base, the Rambler, and the Scout, the base being the one you get in the starter pack. The base variant is designated as a light freight. You do get 4 SC of cargo, which is very well accessible. And generally the cargo bay is pretty big, so you can even get a hover bike in there, which is very nice. You get a full living area with a bed, a small kitchen, and a bathroom, which is again very nice. But you only get 2 size 2 weapons and 2 size 2 missile launchers, which is a bit low, but the ship works well with it. The Rambler is the exploration variant of the cutter, and it comes with a larger living quarters, so it's a little more comfortable. It comes with a larger fuel tank, but that reduces the amount of cargo to only 2 SCU, but you still get a pretty decent cargo area, and the hardpoints remain the same, and as well on the Scout. The Scout is the interesting variant here. It is a reconnaissance ship, as I believe CAG are trying to put it in the same category as the Terrapin. You again get only 2 SC of cargo, you get a scanning station, a full living quarters, and the same hardpoints. We will see how the better scanner actually translates into the game once scanning is a bit more refined, but I believe it should kind of be the stepping stone to owning a Terrapin and using a Terrapin. So where am I going to put a cutter? So that's a bit difficult, but I think I'm going to put it in B tier with the others. It is very much the Drake alternative to a Pisces. You more or less get the same capability. The major difference is that while the cutter has better guns and missiles, the Pisces is more maneuverable than the cutter. So it really depends on what you want to do, what kind of aesthetic you want. But functionally, I think they have the same capabilities. Moving on to the latest addition to starter ships, the Crusader Intrepid. Now keep in mind that I'm recording this on December 5th, so the IAE is ending today. And the Intrepid was actually released at the IAE. So while it is being sold as a starter pack right now, we don't actually know yet if it's going to be a permanent addition to the starter pack lineup, but I believe it is here to stay. So I'm including it because it's a very interesting ship actually. So right now we only have 1 variant and I think it's going to stay that way. It is designated as a light freight and it comes with 8 SCU of cargo. And the interesting part of it is that the 8 SCU is actually split into 2 4 SCU elevators and they are accessible from the exterior and the interior. So if you have a crate that you are storing equipment in and you have it in your cargo hold, you can actually access it while in flight from the engineering and cargo area, which is actually a very cool feature. The Intrepid features a massive, for its size, living area. So you get a bed, a full kitchen with a dining area, you get a bathroom, and a ton of storage space. Basically, an entire half of the ship is just living areas, so it would actually be very comfortable to use it for a long period of time. On the other hand, it only comes with 1 size 4 hardpoint, which was actually upgunned from the size 3 it originally released with, and 2 size 1 missile launchers. Now, It is very maneuverable, which is subject to change. I expect that's going to get nerfed in any future release. But given the size 4 gun, you could technically use it as a mini Ares if you so desire. That kind of has a similar look with the big gun next to the cockpit. But you are most likely going to want to do hauling and deliveries and that kind of stuff with it. So where am I going to put the Intrepid? Again, this is a fairly difficult choice. I don't feel like it belongs in C tier with the 100i. But I also feel like it doesn't quite deserve A tier because it is not that versatile, but it is also very comfortable, and I feel like new players will actually have a pretty easy time using it. And I'm trying to make that my main criteria, and it's definitely a good introduction to the Crusader line of ships. So I think it's gonna go into B tier, but think of it as halfway to A tier. I feel like my tier list is starting to lean in a certain direction, but don't worry, we're getting to the fun parts now. So next up, the Avenger. The Avenger comes in 3 variants. There is technically a 4th variant, the Avenger Titan Renegade, but the only difference there is that it comes with different guns and a different skin. Otherwise, it's a Titan. So with the starter pack, you get the Avenger Titan, which is designated as a light freight ship, which technically that's what it is. It's a courier ship. You get 8 SC of cargo space in a internal cargo hold, which is pretty well accessible. So very good for cargo, very good for boxes. In terms of crew area, you get a bed, though I think this is going to get reworked and you might get some other amenities if they ever decide to rework the Avenger, because it already had a rework a couple of years ago. In terms of hardpoints, it got upgunned a little bit. So you have the nose-mounted size 4 and you have 2 wing-mounted size 3. So you actually get quite a lot of firepower in a fairly small ship. And then you also get 2 size 3 missile launchers, which is actually a pretty good missile package. The Stalker variant is an interdiction and prisoner transport, so it trades all of its cargo space for 8 prisoner transport pods. Otherwise, it's all the same. And then you have the Warlock, which is also an interdiction variant. It has no cargo space because it trades the entire cargo hold for an EMP generator, which is one of the smallest ones. The other small one is the Aegis Saber Raven, and you get the same weapons and the same missiles. I don't think anyone's going to be surprised by this rating. The Avenger goes right into S tier. It is the best starter ship. That's what I eventually upgraded my Aurora to, and I have never stopped using it even though I have other ships. It is still the perfect entry level if I want to go do a delivery, or if I want to go do an entry level hauling mission, or if I need to transport myself to a distribution center to do investigation, or if I need to go raid a bunker, or really whatever you need, the Avenger can do it. Plus, it's a very decent fighter, even though its maneuverability was nerfed a little bit over the last year. You can still reasonably get pretty high up in the bounty mission chain. So moving on to the next ship, the Reliant. The Reliant is one of the ships I made an exception for at the start. It is technically a 2-seater, and you can't buy it as a starter pack, which I am confused as to why, but I think reasonably you could want to upgrade your Mustang or Aurora to a Reliant, because you kind of get that MISC aesthetic in a very small ship, and it is very cool with the way it transforms its shape. The base variant is the Core. It is a light freight. It has 6 SC of cargo, no crew amenities, but it comes with 2 size 2 guns mounted on the hull and 2 size 2 guns mounted on the turret. And I believe the turret can be controlled by the co-pilot as well as the pilot, which is pretty neat. And you also get 2 size 3 missile launchers. Then you have the Mako variant, which is a reporting variant. It has a camera pod instead of the turret. You get no cargo space, but you get a crew bed and a crew bathroom. You only get the 2 size 2s because the turret is given away to the camera, and you retain the 2 size 3 missile launchers. Moving on to the Reliant Sen, which is the light science variant of the Reliant. It has no cargo space again, but comes with full crew amenities and a research station, which might be relevant sometime in the future when science gameplay comes in. It also sacrifices the turret pod for some science equipment, so you only get the 2 size 2s on the hull, but it retains the 2 size 3 missile launchers. And then moving on to my favorite variant of the Reliant, which is the Tana, which is a light fighter. It comes with 1 SC of cargo, so you can stow some equipment in a store-all box and put it in the ship. It has a bed and a bathroom, I believe. And now comes the interesting part. So it actually upguns the turret. It's a 2 size 3 turret, which is very powerful for such a small ship. And it gets the 2 size 2s on the hull. But the really surprising part on it is that it has 2 size 5 missile pods and 2 size 3 missile pods. So you actually get quite a lot of missiles on this thing. And it is actually a very nimble light fighter. So if you're looking for a MISC light fighter, or if you like the MISC aesthetic and you want a light fighter, the Tana is actually a pretty good choice. And you can bring a friend and have them control the turret, which is also very cool. So where do we put the Reliant? I'm going to put the Reliant into A tier. Simply for the fact that it is very cool and you can bring a friend. And the variants actually have a pretty good spread across different gameplays, which I really like. Now moving on to the next ship we made an exception for, which is the 300 series. So the 300 series used to be the Origin starter until the 100 series was introduced. And the 300i comes in 4 variants: the base 300i, the 315p, the 325A, and the 350R. So let's start with the 300i, the base variant, which is a touring variant of the 300i, which comes with 8 SCU of cargo, so the same amount as the Avenger. It comes with a full and very luxurious living area. So you get a bed, you get a bathroom, and you get a kitchen area, and you also get some storage in there, which is very nice. It has 3 size 3 hardpoints and 2 size 2 missile launchers, which is actually pretty good for a touring ship. Then moving on to the 315P, which is the Pathfinder variant, which gets 12 SCU of cargo, which is very nice. The same living area as the base 300i. It only gets 2 size 3 hardpoints, but it gets a nose-mounted tractor beam, which could be pretty useful depending on what you're trying to do with it, but you could use it as a cargo assist vessel for salvage operations or any kind of operation that is dealing with cargo and requires a tractor beam, and it retains the same 2 size 2 missile launchers. I believe it also comes with extended fuel tanks, but that's subject to change. Then we have the 325A, which is the light fighter, which only has 4 SCU of cargo, so it trades some cargo space for better engines and more armor, but it retains the same living area, and it is a little bit upgunned. It has 1 size 4 and 2 size 3s for weapon hardpoints, so similar layout to the Avenger, and you get 1 size 5 and 2 size 3 missile hardpoints. Moving on to the 350R, which is the racing variant of the 300 series. Again, only 4 SCU because it has bigger engines and more coolers. It has a reduced living area. It only has a bunk bed and a bathroom, which is fine for what it is. And it retains the 3 size 3 weapon hardpoints and 2 size 2 missile hardpoints. So where do we put the 300i? I am tempted to put it in S tier with the Avenger because it very much offers the same capability, and the 315P technically even outmatches the Avenger in speed, range, and cargo capacity and utility applications. But I am subtracting points from the 300i for the 300i customization system, which you can actually access still on the RSI website. So the 300 series is going to go into A tier. I would recommend you get a 300i or 315p if you want an Avenger Titan, but you want something that looks a little bit better. After all, the 300 series went through a rework more recently than the Avenger series. So you will actually get a better looking ship, better performing ship, and the interior is amazing. Moving on to actually the only alien ship on this list, the Gatak Sulin. It's kind of an interesting starter. One thing to note there is that it launches and lands vertically instead of horizontally like we're used to, so you might find it a little confusing. But the designation is simply a starter. It doesn't have any specific role to it. You do get 6 SCU of cargo and external cargo pods. You get a very nice living area because it actually has 3 floors. You have kind of the entrance floor with the components, a weapon rack, some storage. Then you have the middle floor with the living area, and then you have the top floor, which has the actual cockpit and some more components. Very cool ship internally and externally. You get 3 size 3 hardpoints and 3 size 4 missile launchers. Now, again, where do we put the Sulin? I think I'm going to upset a lot of people and it's going to go into C tier. I would never recommend a new player buys this thing, simply because of how weird it flies. My reasoning here is that when you first start playing Star Citizen, the learning curve is almost vertical. So you want a ship that allows you to do as many things as it can, and you want a ship that is very easy to learn, and the Sulin is not that. The first time you get into it, all you can see is the ceiling of the hangar, which might be very confusing, especially to the part where you have to move forward to lift off instead of moving up. So that might confuse a lot of new players. Moving on to the only ship on this list that actually surprises me and that I don't think should be on this list, but you can buy a game package with it, which is the Anvil Arrow. Now, don't take me wrong, if we were making a tier list of light fighters, the Arrow would rank very high on it because it's an excellent light fighter. But as a starter ship, it's kind of an odd choice from CIG. So you get no cargo space, you get no crew area, but you get very good weapon and missile loadouts. So you get 2 size 3 wing-mounted hardpoints for guns and 2 size 1 turret-mounted hardpoints for guns. And you get 2 size 3 and 2 size 2 missile hardpoints. So again, excellent light fighter. If I were to rank light fighters, it would go probably right into S tier, but as a starter ship, it goes into D tier. I'm sorry, Anvil fans, I love my Arrow, but it is not a good starter ship. It essentially allows you to do only combat as your starter activity, which is fine if that's what you want to do. But if you're a new player, you probably want to try different things, and the Arrow doesn't quite enable you to do it. And I feel like while it's very easy to fly, you do need some skill to unlock its full potential as in terms of flying. So yeah, sadly D tier as a starter for the Arrow. And now moving on to the final ship, which is a favorite of many of my viewers, the Consolidated Outland Nomad, which surprisingly is designated as a starter, but technically it is a starter exploration ship. You get 24 SCU of external cargo space. The interesting part here is that it will fit 24 SCU of cargo, or it will fit a Cyclone or a Rock DS or anything smaller really. So for a ship that size, you actually have the ability to transport a useful or a utility vehicle. I believe the new Argo CSM fits as well, so could be very interesting. It also has a very luxurious interior with that nice consolidated Outland design language. You get some stowage, you get a kitchen, a bathroom, and a bed, which looks very comfortable, and a work area. There's a little desk in there as well. You get 3 size 3 hardpoints for weapons and a tractor beam for the cargo hold, and you get 2 size 4 missile launchers, but again, as with the 100i, these are internally mounted, so you can't swap them out, but you can swap out the missiles if you don't like the stock missile type. So where does the Nomad go? And the caveat here is the Nomad is the most expensive ship on this list, and I was considering if I should include it or not, but technically it meets my criteria of being a single-seater and a starter, and a lot of people actually have it. So I think I'm going to put the Nomad into A tier. It is definitely going to be useful as a starter explorer. It has a lot of cargo capability. It can hold its own in a fight, but you're probably going to get farther with the Avenger, but you still get a very decent ship when you get it. Anyway, so that's been my tier list of starter ships in Star Citizen. What do you think? Should I rank some of these ships differently? Should I not include some of these ships, or should I have included some other ships? Let me know in the comments. Also, let me know if you like this format. And with that being said, thank you for watching. Fly safe, and I will see you in the verse. Good night.